What's up, guys? Jordan from BRX here. The athlete we're going to highlight today, his name's Trent Terzensky. He's a 50-year right-handed pitcher at Valparaiso, which is a Division I school in Indiana. Trent trained here high school through college, kind of on and off. Had a lot of success here in high school. Went to Valpo and started making some noise. So he was 14 months out of Tommy John surgery when he showed up this summer, started July. So 14 months post-op, some of the stuff as far as where he was at before. So before surgery, he'd been 90-94, top to 95 in a bullpen and 96 in games for Valpo. 6'7", 240 pounds, so he's a big dude. He's athletic dude, can go drop step dunk. He was popping 30s on our jump mat all summer, so there's definitely some explosiveness, some athleticism, and some levers there, so a lot going for him. Showed up, he had shut down in the spring just because of some elbow complications post-operation, so I've been having some nerve issues and some flare-ups in his elbow. Basically threw an inning and then ended up shutting down because just couldn't bounce back, just wasn't feeling right. Day one, throwing wise, he kind of did some long toss, worked into some like 89 to 92 mile an hour shuffle throws. We tested out some things as far as movement screen, seeing how his body was doing. I talked to a couple PTs about him with having some nerve issues and some elbow flare-ups. Really wanted to kind of check and see what the structure of his elbow was looking like. So making sure he had full extension, making sure he can kind of get a little bit like that reflexive bounce out of his elbow without discomfort. So those are a couple things we looked at. The range of motion and the structure was all good there, no issues. Hips had some solid range of motion. There was no red flags there. Like internal rotation was probably a little more limited than ER, but that's never a bad thing. It's just more so telling us about what's his bias towards how he wants to move, how he wants to create load and unload down the mound. So the only red flag we really saw movement screen wise was his spine was pretty limited, so he couldn't really extend his thoracic spine, which when we looked at video of him throwing, kind of led into him not being able to hold that rotation, hold a stack, and torso was going early, arm was late, so arm had to pick up a lot of stress and try to catch up, and he just wasn't transferring energy efficiently. So that was the biggest things we saw. As far as like mechanical issues, I kind of mentioned it, but didn't really load well or stack his torso well. And when I say stack, that means ribs lined up with pelvis. Basically what that position does, it gives you the most bandwidth as far as hip range of motion, upper body range of motion, because think of the body like a bunch of cables kind of interconnected through joints. So as we add tension through one cable, we kind of have to pick up elsewhere, okay? So in that neutral position, you have the most bandwidth for getting to those end ranges and that tension. So couldn't stack, couldn't load. That was causing his torso to go early in the foot plant, and then his arm was in a position where it had to catch up. It wasn't ready to accept that transfer of energy and be efficient and pain-free, so to speak. So that's what we saw on day one. Fast forward through his 6 weeks of training here before he left to go back to school in the middle of August. Threw a 15-pitch bullpen at the end and did some pull-downs before. Pulled down 100.6 and then averaged 95 and topped out at 96 on the mound. All-time PR for a bullpen. He's been 94, 96 all fall since, bouncing back better. Basically, we want to look into what did we do and where did we go to get him feeling better, throwing hard again, bouncing back, all that, okay? So basically, on the training side, mobility-wise, what we really wanted to open up was some capacity of his spine and his upper body. So letting that spine extend, have some range of motion, and be able to kind of move piece by piece through the spine so that he could transfer energy from the ground up. So getting into some of what his training stuff looked like. So basically matching up some mobility stuff, so opening up some range of motion in his upper body with some soft tissue stuff like a barbell pec smash, getting him more comfortable in end range through isometrics, just some movements, cat-cows to open up that spinal range of motion, some other stuff in here as well to kind of get him control that end range, teach his spine how to move, things like that. And then lifting-wise, it wasn't anything super crazy. It was kind of getting him back experience with some single leg type stuff, being strong on one leg, which going into that split stance opens up some different range of motion stuff throughout the hips too, which was something we were looking to do. The biggest thing I would say lifting-wise is that it wasn't anything super groundbreaking, but matching up the stresses as far as when he had high days on the throwing side, matching up high days on the lifting side so that we're not going all out throwing on a Monday and then going all out lifting on a Tuesday. So he doesn't, if we were to do it like that, he wouldn't really have time to recover. So trying to cram everything high stress wise into specific days so that he had days to actually recover versus just keep on beating him into the ground and then he's not throwing at high intensities, he's not bouncing back. All those things would happen if we didn't kind of take care of that. So that was another big thing. And then on the arm care side, that was something where we exposed him to a little bit of some stuff. So some hangs, some different exercise variations aimed at just getting the tissues within his arm to be able to handle the forces that come with throwing. Okay, so some long duration hangs, some specific bicep, tricep, elbow focused work to just get him comfortable, get all those tissues in there, ready to handle that stress that throwing 95, 96 entails. On the throwing side, as far as drills, if I pull up one of his throwing days, it wasn't anything crazy. He was kind of at a point where he'd thrown plyos in the past, and he had kind of expressed, hey, I like doing plyos, but it's not like the main thing I like doing. He was more limited with his routine, and that's what he felt comfortable with. So it was only really 3 drills, and the 3 drills that we did on the plyo side were just aimed at teaching him how to stack that torso and hold that stack for a long time so that he was in a position to transfer that energy, and then introducing new dynamic ways aimed at teaching him how to properly load that backside and then also unload that backside. So the split stance throw, so getting into this position right here, just kind of sequencing a throw with the stationary lower half, teaching him to feel that stack, feel that timing of his arm getting up before his torso goes. That was the main focus there. Coil drill, which basically what we're doing there is we're setting up right here. So open side, we're trying to coil our pelvis as we lift, teach him where to find some tension and find a hinge so that he can move down the mound. You'll see some pictures of his throwing where if you look at his initial day, he was very knee dominant, extend off that backside versus holding tension and rotating down into the ground. So that was a big drill, focus at that. And then the last plyo drill we did was just a lateral hop throw. So just setting up in here, hopping towards the target, load and throw. So basically with that one, that's kind of like a feed the flaw concept. So adding that linear momentum is trying to force him to be pushy off that backside, knock it into his hip, lose that torso early. So by introducing that drill, it's, hey, if you want to execute this well, you're going to have to figure out a way to organize your body and get that load, keep that torso quiet, and then time everything up, okay? So trying to get him experience of just finding a way to do that on his own versus trying to cue him into it. That's something that I'm big on, is more of a self-organization approach versus just cueing someone into doing something, because once they get to game intensities, usually that's all going to go out the window. So trying to find an organic way for him to get into those positions versus just saying, hey, try to feel this, feel that. No, we want to just get him experience with the drill, let his body figure out the path of least resistance to get there, and then let him get experience with it, okay? And then basically just setting out a schedule of, hey, listen to your arm, let's do this, try to get this number of medium days in a week, and then eventually this number of higher intensity days in. He was a guy where we couldn't really do two high intensity days in a week just because he didn't bounce back that well. Now, obviously for the spring, he might have to get to a point where he can do that, but for his rehab process where he was, it was more so, let's get you back to those game intensities, then we can worry about being able to repeat it, okay? So that was kind of where we went with everything, and you'll see some mechanical progress videos throughout this that pretty much show how much of an efficient position he was getting into and how lining up the training, opening up some new range of motion, that combined with the right drill work, basically got him back to where he was before surgery, if not a little bit better, because now he's consistently been 94, 96 in lives this fall. So got him to a really good spot. Basically, next steps in the process for him are even getting him a little bit more efficient because, like I said, he's 6'7", he's big, he's athletic. 94, 96, he's still not all the way there in terms of sequencing. And obviously, I'd say he's 18 months-ish out of surgery now. So probably getting close to all the way back. But next up is getting him a little bit more efficient, getting him to bounce back a little bit more frequently so that obviously he can hold up over the course of a spring at Valpo. And hopefully, if we can get him showing some 97, 98s, clean up some of his off-speed stuff, we can get him an opportunity in pro ball. So that's kind of next steps. But Trent put in a lot of hard work this summer. Obviously, going through a rehab process is tough for anyone. If you haven't been through it, it's a lot of kind of ups and downs with it. But he kind of stayed the course and really saw some good results this summer, and looking forward to seeing what he can do this spring at Valpo.